Well, hello friends, neighbors, John, your neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. Today I want to talk about some quality 12-year-old Scotch. This past Valentine's Day, my wife got me this bottle of Glenturret. She obviously bought it at the same time I bought the Glenturret 10 for myself. And she gave it to me on Valentine's. I had a little bit then. I'm pouring a little bit now, so I don't know too much. It'll be a little bit of a tasting experience together. But I have heard big things about this Glenturret 12. So I busted out a sample I have of a 2018 release of GlenDronach 12, a long-standing favorite of mine. So today I'm going to sip this Glenturret and this 12-year-old GlenDronach to see which one do I prefer. Pour something sherried, and come on back. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. As I said, we're going to talk about this Glenturret 12-year-old. Glenturret just showed up at our market reasonably recently, and where I've been getting them is Highlander Liquor. I was going to remember that place this time, but this release here, 12 years old, natural color, non-chill filtered. It's got some ex-bourbon and some ex-sherry maturation. Glenturret, go to their website, they'll talk about being the longest running distillery or oldest functioning distillery in Scotland, and good for them. I know they were out. I don't think it's continuous production, at least when I read some of their history, it looks like it stopped here and there. But they've been making Scotch there for a very long time. And they make peated and non-peated Scotch. This is non-peated Sherried Scotch. And last time I shared, look at this beautiful bottle because the Leek bought them, or the Leek Group is ownership now. And I misspoke. It's not Leek Crystal. It's a glass bottle, but it is designed by the Leek Group and does look very, very beautiful. And then after we've shared this and just talked some Scotch, we're going to talk this sample. This is GlenDronach 12, but back in 2018 when it was clearly on the box, non-chill filtered and natural color. So I don't know. I know it's a little less alcohol, but we'll see what I get. I haven't returned to that sample in quite a while. Well, I just cracked it open. It's been in that well-sealed bottle for many years. Let's talk Glenturret. Glenturret 12-year-old, ex-bourbon, sherry, all the natural goodness. It noses like a full sherry dram. This is, a little bit of nuttiness, little chocolates, dark fruits, dark prune, raisin. Already getting baking spices, a little bit of cinnamon, but other, like that branded Christmas cake, like right where you get that maltiness, but heavy fruits. Might be a little sulfur even on the nose. Now, the bottle needs time. I know lots of people don't believe bottles open up, but I certainly think sherry bottles do. So, full sherry nose. In fact, I don't know where, I think I lent out my Cardaris 12-year-old from Edinburgh, and it kind of reminds me of that. Like, it's a pretty full sherried Scotch. A little bit of almond or marzipan, raisins, figs, all that goodness. Let's dive in. Hope you've got something nice in your glass. Sláinte. So a nice interplay with those darker fruits. And still a lively distillate. It's, did I say 46%? It's got some body, it's got some heart. It's got more in the palate. It goes a little darker, a little more savory. It was pretty sweet in the nose, and now I'm into a little bit more oak, a little more wood, a little more leather, a little more old bookshelf like that I get with a full sherry dram. I think it was Whiskey Wednesday. I did watch his review of this a while ago. I don't know, half a year ago or something like that. And I remember him saying some things like olive oil. I really remember that olive oil. And what I can't connect with olive oil right now. What I can connect with is a nice body and a fullness in the palate. Let's try another sip. Sláinte. So on that sip, I got some of those secondary notes, a little bit of dark chocolate, and a little bit more casking influence on that. There is vanilla in there from the oak, a little bit of ex-bourbon kind of vanilla, but it's not up front. It really does present, nose, especially nose, as a full sherry. A couple of people have mentioned this drink's older, like it might have, and it might. 12 just means that's the youngest whiskey. And they might have older in there, but it's presented in that style. Again, other people have said, they're maybe chasing like a Macallan type, and I absolutely would say yes. With the beautiful bottle, and even the way they've put this dram together, really leans into that Macallan market. Now, that is why I hunted down in my shelf of samples GlenDronach, because in the past, when I've gone head-to-head Macallan and GlenDronach, I actually prefer GlenDronach. It's back in my market. It's why we didn't have, instead of talking about that, let's talk about this. So for me, full sherry, a nice secondary, chocolates, marzipan, nuttiness, fruits going on, but it is a full sherry dram. It's a little bit a bitter orange, bitter rind. Yep, I should have mentioned that up front. There is some citrus, but for me, it's a bitter orange. I can enjoy bitter orange. It's done well. It's not a bitter off-putting. It's like they deliberately went after a profile that would have some of that bitterness. This is quality Scotch, great Scotch. And in my market right now at Highlander Whiskey, it's actually a reasonable price for this. It's not inexpensive. We're now pushing into a little bit more money for a Scotch, but this one really does taste worth it. Tough for me to give it a star value because I'm just barely into it. I need to come back to it a few times to give it an actual rating, but it's drinking very, very well. I'm enjoying it. Okay, I was already talking about GlenDronach 12, and this is an older bottle, not like really old, and not in that sweet spot when they were releasing 12-year-old Scotch. It was more like 18 or 19-year-old Scotch. Go look that up if you'd like to hear more about that uniqueness when they had mothballed the distillery and couldn't count the age, even though the casks were aging. This is not that, but it is, it's, Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso sherry casks, 12 years, 43%. And this one for sure is natural non-chill filter. Of course, they've dropped the non-chill filter from their current releases, and they're now back in Canada. For a long time, we couldn't get the 12. It was a distribution issue. It wasn't that they weren't making it. It's just that in Canada, we could get the 10, which is a lovely dram, but not the 12. It's back on the shelves. Let's see what this 2018 GlenDronach 12-year-old is like. Maybe it's the PX. It's nosing more lively, more sprightly, more berry. Yep, this is definitely dried fruits, cooked fruits, stewed fruits. Like it's got that. What gives an impression of more age. This is brighter and definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely getting berries, raspberries, maybe a bit of strawberry, that kind of thing on the nose. Let's try this one on the palate. Sláinte. The fruitiness has held up more in the palate than the Glenturret. The Glenturret went right away into savory spices, which I can appreciate. That Christmas cake dipped in brandy, that kind of thing. This is still more fruit forward, still more jams and berries. Now in the early finish, it's starting to pick up some character and some spices. Drinking lighter, it should. 43, still pretty good in the palate, not as heavy, even though they're both non-chill filtered. Let's try a second sip on the GlenDronach 12. Sláinte. Boy, I like that GlenDronach 12. It is a good dram, and one that I really know well. This release, is a solid 4.25. Like, this is a great Scotch. It's still a good value. I would pour this when I'm looking to share a good sherried Scotch with a friend. The PX gives it a little more high sweetness, but now it's got a bit of peppering almost. It's got some of that spices. Having said that, this is drinking richer, or as some have said, older, or a little chewier, a little darker. Yes, a little more sulfur for sure. I'm not getting it like a bad egg sulfur, but there's a little more of that kicking around in there. A bit of depth in the spice palette that I'm not getting as much here. I really like this. I'm really liking this. I need more time with this, but in this head-to-head, oh, I don't know. Now I just got a nice finishing sweet berry ness with that malt. GlenDronach's an old-time favorite. It's tough not to give it the win, but today the Glenturret's holding up well. What do you guys think? Let's see if the comments can ring in. Have you had the Glenturret? Have you had a classic GlenDronach 12 recently? Which 12-year-old is better for you? Thanks for joining me here. Hope you guys are having a great weekend and the work week ahead. Oh, it's Family Day weekend up here in Canada. I should say that. So I might squeeze another review in on the Monday. I hope you have a break if you're here in Canada or in Alberta. And that you have some nice plans, even if those plans are to do nothing, read a book, relax, and just take some time off. Thanks again for joining me. You guys have a good week.